How powerful would it be to have a clear picture of the sprint at any given point in time during the sprint? Whether you're a senior leader, project manager, scrum master, or even a team member, this is a single source of truth to look at the health of the sprint. So you already get to see that Virat is behind one user story. Same is the case with Spriti and Harman. Whereas Aksar and Sanju, they are on track with all the user stories that are planned for them for the given sprint. Hey everyone, welcome to the product demo of Sprint Intelligence Tracker that I have built in order to address the gaps that we have in Jira. I'm sure most of the teams use Jira as a project management tool that helps us with tracking, creating workflows, but it misses on the most important point to address, that is, where do we stand at any given point in time with respect to what we planned for the sprint. In order to address that gap, I built this sprint intelligence tracker. If you have followed me earlier, I recorded the product demo of the sprint capacity tracker. So that is mainly to address how much of capacity we have in a given sprint in order to plan effectively. But that solves only one part of the problem. That still leaves us with the problem that where do we stand with respect to what we planned. So that's where I extended my thinking in order to solve these problems end to end. So now let's start fresh. One time setup you need to do in order for this sprint intelligence tracker to take the live data from the Jira. So what you do is you enter your sprint name and you also add your Jira project key and the API key. Once you do that, it starts to talk to your actual Jira. This is your particular sprint. Your sprint starts on 9th and the sprint ends on 20th. It's a 2 week sprint. And you say that it's a one story point is equal to 1 day. It's not tightly coupled, but for ease of calculations. And you spend 1 day on the sprint ceremonies, like all your scrum ceremonies that you do as part of the sprint, so that you keep aside 1 day of capacity for that. And you also have the buffer that you could change. And if there is any holidays, for example, 19th is a holiday, it's a full day holiday, and it is holiday because of Ugadi. And you say, and once you save configurations, you get to see how much of capacity we have from each of the team members in terms of story points. And you also collect their availability for the given sprint. So let's say, for example, Virat is on leave on 12th and Aksar is not available on 16th half day, and Harman is also on leave on Friday. So once you have this team availability, now you go for the sprint planning. Once you have the user stories assigned to the corresponding colleagues, so you come here and then again you say refresh from Jira. The moment you say, once you have set up your API key, so it will fetch from the Jira. Once you're done with that, you can also go to the summary and then see how did you plan. So here you see that the total capacity available for the team for this particular sprint is 37 story points, whereas we have planned for 40, right? That means we have planned extra over by 3 story points. But as I said, we also have kept some part as buffer, so that should still be fine. And the other important part is also to see that how is our work distributed by category. For example, if let's say this is the DevOps team we are planning, as a DevOps team, are we catering mainly for the product requirements or operations, or are we also spending time in order to work on innovations or automations? That is the clear picture it gives here. And here you can see that how each person is planned versus their availability. Virat is extra by 1 story point, point 0.5, and so on and so forth. So this is the part that ends at the sprint planning. The most important part is that when the sprint starts, in order to get the clear understanding of where do we stand, that is the real missing piece. So you as a senior leader or a scrum master or a team member, you come here and then see that today it's 15th. Okay, so 15th, I already see that our sprint health is 83%. So that means the sprint is at risk. Again, you can define what percentage you call it as sprint is on track, at risk, or off track. For example, if I have added this date picking option just for the demo purpose so that I can show this. So if you say today date is 10th, and based on that date you will have the start date of each of the user stories, due date of the each of the user stories, and the expected status as of this date, as on today particularly, right? Based on that, the calculation is done, and that gives us the health of the sprint. And so when I if I now go back to our today's date, so it already says that 83% because few tasks were supposed to be completed. And now if I choose the date closer to the sprint end, you see that the sprint health is already off track. So only the 38% of what we planned we could achieve, right? So this is the single most important thing this conveys from this sprint intelligence tracker. Now, so each day when you have a scrum, what you can do, you can just come here and then click on each of the members of the team and then get to see, okay, what was the, and each user story is ranked. And based on the ranking, we arrive at a start date and the due date based on the story point. And AI gives us a powerful opportunity to rethink the way we solve problems, not just through automation, but by building intelligent systems that bring clarity and insight into complex workflows like sprint execution. The Sprint Intelligence Tracker is an example in that direction. If you'd like to know more about how this was built, or if you are interested in creating something similar for your teams, feel free to drop a comment or send a message. I would be happy to share more. See you in the next product demo.